big welcome to one and all listening. This is Hospital Podcast episode 361. And it's quite a special one. We're kicking off with an unreleased brand new piece of music by Rob Apex, who, as most of you will know, very sadly passed away last year. His partner has sent us this track and requested that we release it, and we backed it up with an unreleased Super VIP of Yearning by Unknown Error, of which Rob was a part as well. And Rob's partner asked that all of the proceeds of this release should go to a charity called Music Minds Matter, and we're going to listen to part of this tune and then we're going to start talking. I have Richard here, the CEO of the charity, and we're going to see where this podcast takes us, and we have a few shouts to put in there as well. Let's go. I've got to give a shout out to Jim from Unknown Error as well. He was a big part of Rob's production life, and I know that when Rob was sketching this tune, I think Jim was there in some of the sessions as well. So Jim, big shout out to you, mate. I know that Rob's been a huge loss to you as well. So I am joined in the studio by Richard, who has kindly come all the way from King's Cross and then sat in a field around the corner being interviewed in the heat. Richard, how are you?
I'm very well. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for coming down.
No problem at all.
And can you tell me a bit about your charity? It's actually called Help Musicians UK. So tell me a bit about that and Music Minds Matter and how it all came about.
So Help Musicians UK is actually almost 100 years old, and
wow.
Yeah, and we were founded by the first president of the charity was Edward Elgar, so we were set up for classical musicians.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we've come a long way since then, and now we support musicians at every stage of their life and career, whether they're a producer or whether they're a musician or whether they're connected to the music business in some way. We support them, and I suppose we've been the leading music industry charity for a couple of years in terms of the fact that we've almost doubled the amount of money we've given out in that period of time.
That's amazing, because a lot of people who listen to this podcast are connected in some way with electronic music and also with drum and bass, obviously. And we always feel, particularly in electronic music, in underground music, like the music we're involved in, we always feel that there is no support network at all, because people aren't even aware of us. But you're saying that's not true?
No, I've been speaking to the chief exec of the Association for Electronic Music, and you know, we've been having the same conversations about how do we ensure that those that work in this side of the industry are catered for in so many ways. You know, how do we make sure that those who are involved in music, whether they're producers, whatever, are right and central to our thinking, and that's the plan. So we're trying to find as many ways as possible as we can to support that broad spectrum of the music business, no matter what side they're in.
So I've got to tell you something that moved me kind of beyond words, which was Rob's partner told me when we were having this conversation about releasing this record, giving the proceeds to your charity. Part of what drove that was that after he passed away, when she could bring herself to turn on his studio computer, she turned it on, the browser came on, and the page that was open was your page. And she felt that he almost got there but didn't get there in time. It was too late for him. So, can you tell me a bit about the Music Minds Matter initiative?
Of course. The Music Minds Matter service really came from a survey that we did as a charity back in 2014. And that was the first time really that we became aware of that depth of support that was needed. Right. So we got a number of responses through from people that said, look, the fundamental thing for me is my mental health, my anxiety, my depression. That led us to work with the University of Westminster and Music Tank, who did the world's first academic study into musicians and mental health.
Wow.
And that was called Can Music Make You Sick?
And what did they discover? I'm fascinated by this.
Well, they discovered that musicians and those working in the industry are 3 times more likely to have mental health issues than the person in the street.
Yeah.
And so therefore it was that acted as the catalyst for us to say, okay, so what can we do about this? And the amount of phone calls we've had from a crisis perspective have gone up by around 25% over that period of time. So we felt the right step to make was to launch Music Minds Matter, the service, 24/7. And just since the 4th of December, we've had over 200 people on that line talking to us, whether they need CBT, whether they need some form of face-to-face counselling, whether they just need an ear.
Yeah.
It's been incredible, even just through these early months.
And is this available just within the UK, or is it an international thing?
So that's a really good point. So we're aware that these issues have no domestic boundaries.
Yeah.
You could be anywhere in the world and have these issues. So we are working as quickly as we can to link up with partners across the world.
Yeah.
We are aware of similar initiatives in Canada and America. We're looking at what we can do in Europe as well. We want to launch Music Minds Matter in the Republic of Ireland as soon as possible.
Good.
At this point in time, if somebody calls the number, which is 0808 802 8008, that's 0808 802 8008, then they will get the support, the immediate support 24/7. That is just for the UK at the moment.
Okay.
But we're working as hard as we can. Now, if you are a touring musician, if you are a British musician or Irish musician and you're away, you can still call that number. It just won't be free.
Yeah, understood. And for everyone else, just pretend you're Irish. No. But listen, I know of a few people who, since I've discovered you, have called you and have found it incredibly helpful very, very quickly. I've been quite blown away by the feedback I've been getting from the people that I've kind of I've said, look, try out Music Minds Matters because I'm interested,
I think that's the way forward. We as a charity, we have been promoting the line as much as possible. We put lots of ads in the dear old NME for a period of time.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah, well, still online, of course.
Oh yeah.
Still online, and actually, I think our adverts are still on there as well.
Rest in print.
Rest in print. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So, but we've got to, word of mouth is the way forward. So if you've got a friend who works in the music industry that is struggling in that way, or actually, the other really important thing I should say is that the reason why we were set up back those 100 years ago, nearly 100 years ago, was to support musicians who are struggling from a welfare perspective. Now, mental health can mean that you're not working. It can mean that you can't afford to live. And we can help with that too. If you phone us, whether at King's Cross, whether through Help Musicians UK or whether through Music Minds Matter, we can look at ways that we can help, and we give out lots of quality of life grants. We give lots of support out, as I say, which comes into the £1 million a year.
That's amazing.
So I would really urge you to make that call.
That is so. It's so good to hear, because people suffer in silence, especially musicians. When we're not playing music, when we're not performing, when we're not in the studio, that's what we do.
Well, it was really interesting because the study from the University of Westminster, Can Music Make You Sick? One of the artists on that study said, when we talked to them, her name was Lauren Aquilina, actually, the person we spoke to, who was a vocalist and musician, said to us, "Can music make you sick?" She said, well, the writing a song, creating music has never made me sick. It's the industry itself. And I think that's really interesting. That made me think a great deal when I read that for the first time. Right.
I'd say it's definitely a contributing factor. And it is something that I'm quite proud to say at Hospital Records we do our bit to try and remedy, because having been an artist, I know you are a musician in bands, I know what it's like, you probably know what it's like to be the victim of an unscrupulous record label or record deal, and the pressures that brings, the lack of self-worth that brings. So when we set up Hospital, me and Chris Goss, one of the first things we said was, we pay everyone else before we pay ourselves. And that's proved to be the best business plan in the world.
Yeah.
Because people trust you.
I think that there's a big issue here about duty of care, and I think what we've got to remember here is the reason why Music Minds Matter has touched people's hearts is because it's the duty of care is initially with the individual or with your friends. If you see somebody struggling, get them to speak to somebody. That doesn't need to be Music Minds Matter straight away. Just speak to somebody. Yeah. If you're working with the right, and I'm not passing judgment on any music industry organisation here at all. Yep. But more and more people in the industry are beginning to take mental health seriously. More and more every day we hear more. So it's really important that if people are struggling, talk to the people around you if you can. And if you can't, you need that immediate support, then that's what we're here for.
Yeah. I mean, this is hugely reassuring for me, and a lot of this information, I didn't even know that you existed. And there were various stages in my life in the past where I really could have done with it. I sought help through various different means, whether that was counselling on the NHS, occasionally calling the Samaritans just for a one-off chat, simply to offload my kind of spike of angst, if you like. And throughout the years on the podcast, I've always been very, very open about it. I am one of those musicians who is 3 times more likely to be depressive and anxious than a normal person. I also believe what's behind that depression and anxiety often can make music brilliant as well. So it's a double-edged sword, and I don't know how you feel about that, but if a person can learn to channel it in a positive way, then actually what's driving that angst can be a very, very positive thing, and creative too.
It's a double-edged sword. It's really difficult because, of course, being that tortured creative genius is sometimes a blessing, sometimes a curse. Yeah. And you're out there and you're on show as well, and sometimes people feel as if they're only as good as the last piece of work they did. Yeah. It's a really precarious balance working in the music industry, whether you are a creative. Well, I would say probably that everybody that works in the music industry is a creative. Maybe not the accountants, but it's really important that people know that no matter what element or what aspect of the music industry they work in, we're there to support. What we've got to be really careful of as well is the whole addiction element. Yeah. Now, there's another organisation which I need to make you aware of called Music Support, right, who provide peer-to-peer support, especially with addiction. And the problem is that people often put music and addiction together.
Yeah.
And sometimes that notion of the tortured genius can lead you to addiction.
Yeah.
And that leads to mental health issues.
Yeah.
So there is this really vicious circle. That if you're able to channel those creative endorphins into something amazing, then you'll produce something amazing.
Yeah.
But that is a real issue which came to light in the Can Music Make You Sick study.
I bet it did, but part of the problem here is that in terms of culture, like popular culture, rock culture, music culture, drugs are actually seen as quite a cool part of that culture and very much accepted in the backstage area. But what isn't kind of clear is, as you say, the kind of damage that it can actually do.
It's all a learning exercise, and yes, the to give it its 1970s title, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll element. We as an industry have got to stop promoting that a little bit. Yeah. I've just finished reading a book about the madmen in the music industry, talking about people, sadly long past, who were creative geniuses. Yeah. But struggled. Yeah. You could mention people like Syd Barrett. Yeah. And others that are still cool in their own way. Yeah. But it's really important that we learn the lessons of the past. We learn the lessons of how we ensure that this sometimes tortuous career, which has these amazing highs and these amazing lows, we need a balance there. And sometimes the individual can't find their own balance. And I suppose that is why talking is so important.
Talking and sharing it as well. Sharing a problem. I was coping with my youngest child, who is known as the Secretary General on the podcast. He had a moment this morning where he was literally curled up in a ball and wouldn't tell me what was wrong, and I was trying to get across to him how just sharing a problem can really help it to be a bit easier. I can't make it go away, but I can help it to be a little bit easier. And it's the same with everybody. It's not just musicians. It's like so many people are afraid of being seen as being weak for sharing mental health issues. They're not afraid to say, "Oh, I've cut my knee or I've broken my arm." But there's still so much stigma attached to it. And actually, in other societies, far more so than in our society, we're lucky. We've got people like you here in the UK. Some countries, you just don't even mention it.
That's really... I went over to America last year and I spoke to an unnamed music charity. And I was really desperate to find a partner that we can work with in America. And they made me aware of the significant stigma that exists around even talking about mental health issues in certain audiences. That's beginning to unlock a little bit now. We're beginning to see, because there's more and more names of well-known musicians who are acting as a bit of a role model. We're beginning to see that change a little bit. But what we need people to see that having a mental health issue, whilst you can't see it, is just as important to deal with as breaking your arm or having a cold. It's really important that people, whether you're struggling or whether you're challenged or not, can make that leap.
I think in America it's made even worse by the whole kind of like health insurance aspect, because people are worried, will it affect my premium? It's a terrible thing.
It is, agreed. And I think one of my big priorities for Help Musicians in 2018 is to really create that network of organisations, whether they're charities or not, across the globe, that can join hands and find a way of sharing a toolkit almost for Music Minds Matter. It's really important.
Okay, so worldwide listeners, listen, if you're at all keyed in with the industry, if you're keyed in with the mental health industry, get a hold of Richard. talk. See what you can set up. Let's see if we can get this to spread worldwide.
I'd love that. Yeah, mmm@helpmusicians.org.uk would be brilliant. Get in touch.
Absolutely wicked. And now we've been talking over some really lovely music, and I'm just going to tell you what we've been listening to. After Echoes by Apex, we had In the Forest of Dreams by a brand new artist called Natus, who is debuting on the next album on Med School, which is New Blood 018. Then we had the Polo and Bryson remix of Empire State by Blue Martin. Someone who needs help if ever I recognise one. Sorry, he works upstairs. He's actually my agent. He's beyond help. Mellow by Hidden Aspect, another artist who's debuting on New Blood. This is brand new music by Comics. Long time no see Comics. This is called Only, and they are self-releasing it on their Bandcamp. I think I'm gonna let the music breathe for a second, and then I'm gonna read a couple of shouts that you may want or you may not want to comment on, actually. Now, those of you listening, I truly hope that you understand the value of what's being said right here. Music is a beautiful place. Drum and bass is a beautiful part of the beautiful place that is music, and we dedicate our lives to it. But for most artists, it comes at a cost. That can be a slight cost, it can be at a very, very big cost. So we're talking about ways to address that. The best way that you possibly at this point can address that is to buy Echoes by Apex. Now, it's not just profits, all proceeds go to the charity, to Help Music UK. So that's what we at Hospital feel that we can do at this stage. It's also an absolutely brilliant record as well, and will be highly collectible in the future. So it's a good long-term investment, and it's good all round. I've got a shout in here from Jared Campbell, who says, "Hi Tony, firstly I'd like to say a huge thank you for all the music that you and the Hospital crew have put out to date. My love affair with drum and bass started in 2003 when I was taken to a Shy Effects and Skibbity concert in Perth, Western Australia. The people, the vibe, the music and the sense of family had me hooked. As you know, we're spoilt with talent in Perth and the scene is pumping. The last hospitality you guys played, you hooked my mate and everyone's, Kevin O'Sullivan, with free tickets." Oh, okay. Are you what's this all about then? Hold on. "We had to make it a short night as I had a 2-month-old son." Okay, at home. "But man, what a solid night. Next time you're in Perth, I would love to repay the hospitality you showed us in the form of some American barbecue." Okay, I like this. "I run a pop-up named Pig Lebowski." Do you get that? Pig Lebowski? We like that. On Instagram, if you want to check it out, at Pig Lebowski. There you go, mate. You've got your plug. Secondly, I want to thank you for the podcast, all the positive messages, the banter, and for talking about your own family and being a proud father. There's nothing better than a proud and active dad. Speaking of fathers, can I have a shout out to my now 9-month-old son, Albert? And a massive congratulations to Kevin O'Sullivan on becoming a dad to Byron, who was born 1 day ago. Yes, Kevin, massive congratulations. And Jared, thank you for the shout. And thanks for the offer of the American barbecue. I will take you up on that next time I'm in Perth. Tom Shaw writes in and says, "I would be hugely thankful if you could give us, Tom and Bex, a podcast shout out. We are avid listeners and it would mean a huge amount, as I lost my father 2 months ago and I know how much it affected you when you lost yours. And it's affected me also, but the music we all love is a massive positive influence and it helps bring normality, consistency and joy to my life when times are hard. Thank you for all your work, and I'll see you at Fabric in May with the Med School gang. Best, Tom. Tom, massive condolences, and I'm now giving you an absolutely enormous hug. No tongues, just a hug. Brand new music from Subsid, and this is a tune appropriately titled Problems. Coming out on Liquid V. Big shout to Brian G. Yes, Brian, how you doing, mate? Been too long. So Richard, you used to be a singer in a band. Come on, spill the beans.
No. This is a subject which is that was on the excluded list of questions.
Oh, is it? No one gave me that list. So
no, didn't they?
So it's tough.
We need to create that one then.
Okay.
Oh no, it was. I was in an indie band in the '90s, and the reason why I'm doing this is because we were dreadful. So I think let's draw a line very, very indelibly under that.
I love that. Okay. The fact that you were dreadful has probably made you immune to some of the crises that successful musicians might encounter.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we were very bad.
Okay, you were that bad, right?
Oh gosh,
okay.
Okay. We hear some amazing challenges that artists had, but lack of talent generally isn't one of them.
Yeah. But it was for you.
Yes, indeed.
Wicked. Thank you for being so completely honest. So, I mean, are there any kind of well-known artists who don't mind being talked about in the context of what you do? And
it's really difficult. That's the million-dollar question. And you know, we're a charity that's existed for a long time, and fundraising is really important to us. So please donate, everyone. But it's really difficult to have case studies and to persuade people to put their hands up, even with a mental health line in mind. You know, with Music Minds Matter in mind, we need people to admit it, to come forward, because that will help. You know, if people can be role models, then you know it's not just about raising money; it's about raising the profile, ending stigma. So no, I mean, there are so many well-known musicians, either at the start or at the middle or at the end of their career, that have come to us with one thing or another. Whether it's a welfare issue, whether it's a health issue, or whether it's a creative issue, whether it's just help with their career. But the vast majority of people that come to us are not that 2% at the top. You know, and that's what we need to make clear. You know, lots of people talk about the artists that have come forward and admitting to having mental health issues, anxiety, depression, like people like Zayn Malik and Adele had postnatal depression and things like that. those are terrible stories, but they're the 2%. It's the other 98% that are coming to us who are, and this is the truth, Elvis impersonators.
Yes.
You know, DJs from who go and do a set in their local pub.
Yes.
You know, right the way to the other extreme, which are DJs or producers that have just come off a stage to 10,000 people in Ibiza and have just sat in that hotel room on their own with no one, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and they've had that crashing low.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the people that we're there to support, all of them.
It is incredibly reassuring, and hopefully the word will spread, and people will have your number in their phones, so that when the adrenaline wears off and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but you can't get to sleep, and you feel that feeling, and it can take you to a dark place. I hope that they'll call you.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to play a really beautiful vocal track now. This is called One Another, and it's by Joe Hart's, remixed by Lensman. It's coming soon on the Juicebox label.
Searching for a mindset, helping me to forget all I know. I'm hoping that she'd regret, but sometimes hate me instead for too cold. Whether my mind's overseas, her body is all that I need. Keep losing this overseas. I'm craving this side of me, believing that he wanna see you, but don't wait, don't wait, don't wait. Feeling myself, I'm slowly getting over, growing solo, leaving out the other stories that we told by one another. Feeling myself, I'm slowly getting over, growing solo, leaving out the other stories that we told about each other.
Meet some of the hospital team, in fact specifically our amazing mobile shop team, and you want to get the Apex 12-inch before anybody else, then go along to Clashmouth at the House of Vans in Waterloo. It runs throughout the afternoon, and it's basically like a big drum and bass label, physical market. Everyone from hospital, med school, metalheads, everyone's there. It'd be absolutely amazing. And this shout I'm about to read out set off quite an interesting chain of events. It's from Barbara McDougall. Barbara says, I'm a fan of yours from Kingston, Ontario in Canada. Crazy story time. I've been dating the most wonderful man in the universe for almost 3 years now. Last Christmas I came over to visit him in England. While I was there, we made a little trip out to Brighton to see our best buddy Dave, at which point we took him for his first acid trip. Alex and I had done acid a handful of times before, and it was a life-changing experience. This time we mixed it with some MDMA. Now, I would like to point out, listeners, that obviously I'm not advocating you try this at home, okay? This is someone shouting in. So, yeah, we mixed it with MDMA and God was born. When God was born, the music in the birthing unit was none other than you guys. Dave was showing me drum and bass, which I had never heard before in my days. Although I'd come to find out later that I've actually heard Shock Out by Danny Bird for years but had no idea what it was. So we were introduced to drum and bass through your music, and it's the only music I've listened to since. Don't get me wrong, I love everything. I myself am a musician, playing and singing all kinds of different stuff, but your music moved me on a level that music hasn't touched me in quite a while. So now it's almost Easter, and guess who's coming back to England? Me. For a month. So of course hospitality in the dock happens 4 days after I get there. So the three of us from that fated trip are all going to be there for the main show as well as the after party. I've never been to a drum and bass show before. I've never done any kind of raving or anything like this. And there are so many people playing, I have no idea how to see all of them, but I'll do my best. So then, I've been listening to your podcast and praying to the universe that maybe somehow, by some crazy chance, we might be able to meet you. And oh, hello Sonic Surgery, happening a block away from Dave's house in Brighton the day before I fly home from England. So that's happening and I can't wait. Now, Sonic Surgery is where we hold a panel for a whole day at the Brighton Music Conference. It's on the 27th of April. And we're going to be talking about production. So Barbara is coming with her friends. She continues, I've always wanted to compose music, but I find it crazy hard coming up with lyrics. That said, ever since I got into drum and bass, I've had all these really fun ideas that I've been composing. I've been a musician my entire life, but this is the first genre that has really inspired me to create. So we're going to try something and see how it goes. Please don't make that acid and MDMA, Barbara. The three of us are collaborating, and though we don't know a lot yet, I think there are some good ideas here, and I'm looking forward to talking with you people about them at Sonic Surgery. So, here's my question for you. The three of us are totally, profoundly blind. None of us has any sight whatsoever. So if I might be able to ask a teeny favour, if it's at all possible, when you guys are doing the Sonic Surgery, and if you have a point and click stuff going on, could you just try and make sure that you describe in detail what's going on visually? We don't want to miss anything. And though I know the software you guys use isn't the most accessible for people like me, I assume whatever you guys say, we can do it in our own sound editor of choice. So if you can keep that in mind, that would be amazing. I'm truly looking forward to seeing you perform and hopefully perhaps meeting you at Sonic Surgery. We already have our tickets. We'll be easy to spot, the three blind crazy people with the long white sticks. Barb, I met you at Hospitality at the Dock because you and your mates were right at the front at the podcast Under the Clock. And I've got to say, you absolutely smashed it. And Barbara, when I gave you the mic, because at these kind of live podcasts I tend to just kind of give the mic out randomly, I can't remember exactly what Barbara said, but it was absolutely beautiful and from the heart. And you can watch it back because the podcast is on my Facebook and it's on our YouTube channel, and right at the end Barbara gives the most wonderful speech, so it's well worth having a look and listen to that. So yeah, I'll see you at Sonic Surgery, Barbara. I hope you're enjoying your time in the UK. Stay safe. Drugs are bad. Okay, this is rather special. This is Calibre on the remix duties. It's Burst by Spectra Soul. Spectra Soul, say that again. Rather special. Enjoy.
This house is drained of color, a leak that's running wild. You made up your mind, now I have to decide. It's a struggle I don't wanna fight, and I'm about to burst. There'll be fragments of our two hearts, and I'm about to burst. There'll be fragments of our two hearts, and I can't open the curtain. Nothing is working right. Ink on my skin has sunken in. I feel sunken inside. This dust has been collected, and I cannot stand the tide. I've held my desires, compared the price, and I've been willing to try.
So, you said Help Musicians UK was formed about 100 years ago, and Edward Elgar had something to do with this.
That's right. Yeah. Do you want the story?
Yeah.
So there was a tenor, a singer called Gervais Elwes, who went over to America, and he was in Boston, and he left his coat on a train, went back to retrieve it, and fell off the train and died. And so Edward Elgar set something up called the Gervais Elwes Trust he was the first president anyway, Edward Elgar, back in 1921. Which was there to support his family, and that ethos still continues now. So, that soon became the Musicians Benevolent Fund, and in 2014 we became Help Musicians UK.
That's amazing. That really is. I love that Elgar's got a huge part to play in this, because I do love his music. I don't love the fact that he's been adopted by nationalists and
I understand that. Yeah,
and Brexiteers, but we won't go there because we're going to keep politics out of this. So something really, really good has come of something awful.
And that is so often the case. The amount of people that come to us who are having a crisis in their career, whether they're a classical musician, a producer, no matter who they are, and often, whilst we're not here to fix people, we're here to help people, it's often that you see some of the amazing work they produce, and we are blessed by some amazing musicians and people in the industry that have seen their careers continue long after that moment.
So let's move away from Crisis Point for a little while, because it isn't all crisis.
No, not at all. So we have a creative program which supports musicians who are, seeking that next step in their career, and so we give out all kinds of grants for musicians, perhaps who are looking to do something innovative. And if this is something you think you might be interested in, then do have a look at our Grant Finder app on our website.
Wicked.
There's a good explanation of some of the grants that are available as well. And we've doubled the amount of investment we've put into our creative program. So over time, as you say, it's not just about crisis; it's about building a career.
So if I'm at the beginning of my career and I want to make a leap, and I need some assistance to do that, where do I go? Where do I look online?
Well, as I just said,
what do I search for?
Just have a look for us. Have a look for Help Musicians UK. Have a look at our Grant Finder app, and look at what's available. We started a new partnership this year with Mobo about how we can support young musicians. We are also looking at ways that we can support young women who are trying to make their first steps into tech, which is a really big issue for us.
Wicked.
We are starting a new campaign around gender equality in partnership with an organisation called Women in Music, which is a worldwide organisation.
Yep.
And I suppose another thing that it's back to health again, but another thing that we're doing is that we've done something called the Musicians Hearing Health Scheme, which is to provide for £40 the equivalent of just under 300 quid's worth of hearing protection. And I know that anybody who listens to music at high decibels and then wonders why they've woken up in the morning and can't hear much, then it might be something worth looking at if you're in the music industry. We've had thousands and thousands of people apply for it.
I would say if you're anywhere near close to the music industry, involved in it in any way whatsoever, take Richard up on that. Do it. Get that hearing protection fitted for 40 quid. Trust me, it's the best investment you will ever make. It really, really is. And I'm speaking from experience.
Once it's gone, you don't get it back, unfortunately.
No, you really don't. And this is the Bop remix of Come Together by Camo and Crooked. Massive shout out to Alex Bop. And to his girlfriend, A Fruit. That's her artist name. And she is debuting on New Blood 018 on Med School. Played a track by her a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely amazing producer. I think she's from Moscow, isn't she? Yeah, from Moscow. Fantastic electronic music producer. And it's interesting you're talking about women in music, because we're suddenly seeing an explosion of new talent at last in drum and bass. There's a whole load of very, very talented, exciting women producers coming through, and it's what we've wanted for years. So
that's really relieving
so
to hear.
exciting.
We really want to see what we can do to support more. I mean, I would say if you're a woman who is looking to make steps in the music industry or in production particularly, then do keep an eye on our website, because we want to announce some big things later in the year.
And Barbara, who sent that amazing email, who's coming to Sonic Surgery, she's unsighted, but she uses Reaper, which is one of the newer digital audio workstations. It's actually really, really sophisticated. It's a great piece of software. So she uses it through speech conversion, and it's just fantastic to imagine that process of being able to do that, and crucially having the energy to do that and the hunger to do that is amazing. I absolutely love that. So very much looking forward to hearing Barbara's demo when she comes. We're doing a demo drop at the beginning of Sonic Surgery, and at the end of the day we'll have listened to the demos, and we'll pick some of them and actually kind of pull them apart in quite a nice, compassionate way, hopefully. But we will. You have to dissect demos, It's important for people to get an insight into the A&R process in a record label. And I would like to say that Matty is here in the studio right now. Matty is actually responsible for our demo inbox. He doesn't listen to everything, but he makes sure that everything gets... Oh, you do listen to everything? Okay, he actually listens to everything. So I'm not going to give you his email address in case you're concerned that your demo has been ill-treated in any way. So anyway, no, he is a safe pair of ears.
'cause I can't give you anything.
This is new music from Sattel. It's called Everything and Anything. Coming out on Integral. So we've learned a lot. Well, I've learned a lot today that I didn't know, and I'm so thankful for you coming down, Richard, and also Belinda, who's in the corner but not saying anything. But she is a big Inja fan, so that's enough to know. That's all you need to know. That makes her an incredible person, because he's an incredible guy. So it's not just the smile and the beads. Trust me. It's if you heard the podcast with Inja on it, actually, you'll know. Instead of like getting him to talk, I got him to freestyle, and it was amazing. So people were sending in shouts, and he was freestyling on the topic of the shout. Really, really well, and funny as well. It was something else. So Richard, I'd like you to do a freestyle over the next drop, please.
Do you know there's a challenge there that I think I might move on that.
I'm just trying to give you some anxiety here. Come on.
I told you I was a terrible indie singer. I mean, that should give you a hint.
I know. I mean, I've been here behind this mic for about, countless years, and every now and then I really want to MC. Like I really, really, really want to, and I can't, so I don't. But I really want to. I'd love to be able to do it. It's a bit like playing the drums. I kind of can play the drums. I can fake it. But I'm not a real drummer. But I'd love to be able to MC. It must feel so good just to be able to flow like that. And MCs, obviously you are included as musicians. It took quite a big battle at the Musicians Union quite a few years ago, I remember, for MCs to be counted as musicians. There was a big campaign years and years and years ago. So if you're an MC, you can join the Musicians Union. You can call music charities. You can have all the help that a classical violinist would have, that a dubstep producer would have, that a jazz drummer would have. We're all one. We're all the same. Do you include DJs as well?
Yep. So
yes.
April 2016 we changed. So it wasn't just pro musicians. It used to be if 50% of your income and you're a pro musician, then you could apply to us.
Yeah.
But the really important thing I should say is that we don't have a membership. So you don't have to be a member of Help Musicians to apply for funding. You can be anyone in the industry.
Yeah. Great. So if you want the number again, it is 0808 802 8008. Could you have got some more 8s and O's in there? There's not enough.
Well, that's why we want to take it internationally, because if you add dialing codes, we could probably add thousands of different 8s
in.
in.
You could get it could be absolutely amazing.
You've set as a challenge there.
Now it's a live podcast. I'm playing the same track again, which proves that this is not pre-recorded. I did that on purpose just to show everyone out there that this actually does go out live. Let's do that again. Sometimes you just have to make mistakes just to make sure people understand it's real. This is by an artist called Esk, working with an artist called Mineral. Soul Toucher. And it's coming up on the New Blood 018 compilation on Med School Music. The release date of which is quite soon. Is it on 27th? Yay, it's on 27th. Day before my birthday. Hint, hint. New Blood, as you know, is our our kind of springboard for brand new artists who've never had music out before, certainly in our kind of area, our vicinity, drum and bass, our labels. And it's launched the careers of Etherwood, Keno, Stray, quite a lot of different artists who've gone on to do some really rather great things. So do check it out. It's a beautiful place. New Blood. Got a shout in from someone called Kim who says, Tony, during Hospital podcast number 358, to be specific, you read a comment from someone named Jess. In it, she mentioned how the podcast was a big influence on her deciding to go to music production school, which I think is absolutely amazing. But then she started to complain about how you force politics and lovey-dovey sentiments onto all of your listeners, and how she's had enough of that, and the fact that she's going to drop off from your podcast entirely. And I have to say that I have no idea what this Jess person is on about. Everyone has the right to their own opinion, and no one should ever force a belief onto someone else. But that's not what you're doing, Tony. I've never felt like you were forcing anything on anyone, ever. I currently live here in the United States, and with our current state of affairs, #45, police brutality, etc., it can be a bit overwhelming and discouraging at times. But what I look forward to is your podcast every Friday, not only because of all the bangers you play, but also because of your hilarious commentary and your words of support and your general positivity. The first rave I ever went to was more than a decade ago. It was then that I learned PLUR, plur. I consider this acronym a little bit lubby-dubby in of itself, even still today. I don't even know what it is actually. But nonetheless, this... Do you know what that is? PLUR. Right. But nonetheless, this positive sentiment rings true to every single rave, electronic music event and drum and bass show that I have ever been to. The people I've met along the way have been nothing short of amazing. The music is always spectacular and the atmosphere and vibes extraordinary. I've embraced drum and bass and the amazing music scene that it is a part of ever since I was young. I do hope that Jess can continue to do the same. Maybe perhaps her attitude will change, I don't know, but whatever happens, I wish her the best of luck, and to you, Tony, keep on doing what you're doing and don't change. Kim. The thing is, Kim, Jess's shout was quite harsh, but it made me think that I was being too political and I was turning her off, and I don't want to lose listeners, but I do want to be political, so there's got to be a better way of doing it, and to engage people and let them tell their side of the story as well. Kind of whatever their politics are. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to get Nigel Farage on the podcast, don't worry. But I need to be more open-minded, and I think the key word is more curious about why other people believe what they believe. Because it's too easy to believe that you've got it right and everyone else has got it wrong. So that was why I gave her airtime, because she certainly made me think quite a lot. So I appreciate that, Kim, but I am a little bit more thoughtful now about what I say, or more importantly, how I say it. So, Richard, before we play the last tune of the podcast, I want to say a huge thanks for coming down all this way from King's Cross to South East London, the middle of nowhere.
Well, I think the thanks are due to your good selves for supporting us with such a fantastic track. I mean, I've just heard it for the first time. It's amazing, and you know, for both charitable reasons, please go out and buy it, and both for non-charitable reasons, because it's clearly something which means a lot to so many people.
For the sake of your own record collection, you definitely need it. I'm going to play the B-side now. It's the Super VIP of The Yearning by Unknown Error, which was Rob's first musical kind of collective with Jim Gash. This is the Super VIP. Here we go. Check this out. We're not going to talk anymore. So if there's anything else that you want to say, Richard, say it now.
Just thank you very much, Hospital Records. It's greatly appreciated, and I would urge anyone that has issues to please give us a ring. We're here for you.
Brilliant, and I urge absolutely the same. Thank you for coming down. It's been an honour. This is the music. We've been talking to you. I hope you haven't minded listening to us too much, but it's massive love to all of you. Spread love.